Alrighty. How are we getting on? I have been trying out the new Reason synth algorithm for the last day or so. So I made a whole song with it here. I'll show you that in a second, just in case you're not familiar with what Algorithm is. It's a new FM synthesizer from Reason Studios, formerly Propellerhead, who make Reason. So I thought it was pretty cool. I love FM synth, so I said I'd try it out. One of the things I like to do when I try out a plugin is I like to make an entire song out of just that plugin. So all the drums and everything in this song are just this synth. I think I may have used a percussion preset from here, but I made all the other ones from scratch. So I'll play that for you, and then I'll explain a little bit about how the synth works. Okay, so that was the track. I'll show you a couple of tricks that I learned from some of these sounds that I made in a second, but first I'm just going to show you how the synth works itself. You can load in, first of all, an FM operator, which is just a sine wave, as in like traditional FM, like a DX7 or something like that. You can also load in these other oscillators, which have more complex waves. So this one, you can see, goes from triangle to square, and then there's some other ones down here. There's like sine to noise, which goes from a sine wave to noise. Then you've got some of these like wavetable ones. So this wave mod here basically scans through the wavetable. So there's a few of those in there. You can use the wavetable oscillators here to modulate either a regular operator here or another one of these oscillators that have a wavetable in it. So you can connect over here. There's like a 3x3 panel. So operator 4 here relates to this wavetable oscillator, and then operator 1 here relates to this sine oscillator, just the regular operator. And you can connect these, so I can drag out a little cable here and drag it to this oscillator, and that is now FMing this oscillator. So now if I bring up the level here on this oscillator 4, it frequency modulates this oscillator. And you can scan through all these different wavetables, and of course change the relationship between them. And then it has its own ADSR here. So another thing you can do here is say I've got this oscillator 4. Let's drag it up here into this position, and let's disconnect it, and say we want to put something in between the two of these. So if I just click on this wire here, I can disconnect it, and then what I'll do is I'll add a filter module in here, and then I'll connect the oscillator 7 here, which is the wavetable oscillator, into the filter, which has a low pass set on it, and then I'll put that into the output oscillator, which is here. So that's this operator here is the output. So now what I've got here is I've got a wavetable oscillator that's being filtered, and the filter has its own envelope, and that's going through our output oscillator, which is operator 1 here. And I can of course change up the settings here on the filter. So this has a few different modes. It's got bandpass as well, and it's got high pass, and the resonance control here, and then the level will of course control how much the filter is going into the next operator. Okay, so the final I guess module that you have here is the shaper module, so let me add that in here. And now let's disconnect this filter from operator 1 and connect it over here to the shaper, and then I'll connect the shaper here, and I'll use that output to FM this operator here. So now I can shape this filtered signal. So now all 4 of the modules are active here. The shaper module has a symmetry, a drive, a mix, and a level. And it's got a few different modes here, from sort of more subtle saturation to more sort of insane wave shaping here. And the other thing that you can do is quite cool, is you can now say take this output from the operator and we can feed that back into the beginning of the chain. So now we've got this wavetable oscillator that's going through a filter that's then being wave shaped, that's going out through operator 1 and then back in and feedback again. And then we control the feedback amount over here. So let's just kill the filter on this a bit. So you can use the feedback to make really harsh and distorted sounds. You can also have each of these modules output itself. So say you want to hear that, but you also want to hear just the output from this first oscillator here. So you can just hit the out button, and now this is going through the chain, but it's also output. So then maybe you want to turn the output off on this, and then you want to add a filter in here and send this through that chain, but also send it through its own filter. Let's disconnect this. So now this is just going through this filter. And now let's output this. Or you could even turn off the filter here and you could feed that through this saturator as well, and then feed it back into this filter, and then use this signal to FM oscillator 1 here. So you could also use this signal to say modulate oscillator 6 here, and then you could send that back to 1. Let's turn on the feedback a bit. So yeah, the routing is pretty cool. You can pretty much route anything to anything, and it can go through. You can have all of these be shapers except for one that's an oscillator, or you could have all of them be filters. You can do whatever you want. And yeah, so that's the basic controls. Up here at the top, you've got some controls for how it handles polyphony and stuff like that, and portamento. You've got your patches and stuff here. And then this is one of the cooler things. So we've got kind of an awful sound there, to be honest. So let's clean that up a bit. Okay, that still sounds bad, but it doesn't matter. So up here, you've got this randomizer. The randomizer, basically, you click and drag, and it randomizes whatever you've got selected here. So for now, we'll just do frequency. And you can see it's randomizing the frequencies of all the... Now, what you can also do is you've got these modes here. So let's set this to step and this to step, and that'll make sure that these basically stay at a sort of musical interval, I suppose. But you've also got other ones you can select here. So you've got mode as well. So let's just change that. So anything that's got a selection here. So say shaper here has got a selection. This has got a selection. So it'll switch through the wavetables. and that'll switch to the saturation modes here. Then you've got level, which is the level of each. Then you've got envelope, which will change the envelope for each of them. And then you've got algorithm, which is just going to randomly change up the modules and where they're routed. And of course you can select all of them, so you can randomize every single thing. So you can randomize the frequency, the mode, the level, the envelope, and the algorithm. And just show you some of the other things in here. So you've got feedback, which controls the level of feedback if operators are feeding into themselves. So let's say feed this back into itself. This is a global control for feedback. Oscillator key sync, which syncs the oscillator to when you hit a key. It'll reset the phase. So you can key scale the FM amount and also the envelope rate. And now you've got two controls here which let you offset the parameter you set. So you can offset the FM amount, so you can bring it down, or you can bring it up. And the same with the decay and release. Then you've got unison here, which is up to 4 voices. You've got control over the timing, the detune, the spread, and the blend. I'm not going to go through everything in detail. I'm just going to show you some of the features that are in here. Then you've got your modulators. So you've got 3 LFOs here and 2 curve modulators, which are kind of like MSEGs because they can be non-stepped or stepped. So you can have steps like this, or you can turn off stepped, and then you can have it be smooth. So there are 2 of those and 3 LFOs. And then down here you've got the mod matrix. So you select your source here. A couple of notable ones here. Primarily is this one. The unison index will set a different modulation value for each voice. So if you've got 4 voices here, and we select this, and let's go for the FM amount offset. That's going to spread it out over the unison voices. So it's a cool way of widening out the sounds. Then you have some effects down here. So you've got an EQ, a resonator, which is really cool. I'll show you that on some of the drums I made, what I used it for. You've got a distortion with a few different algorithms. You've got a phaser, which is also a flanger and a chorus. Compression, delay, standard delay, and a reverb. And that's pretty much everything. So I made some basic sounds for the song that I played at the start. And I'll show you some of the stuff that I did to maybe give you some tips. There's nothing too complicated in here, but might be useful to somebody. So the first thing I've got here is a kick drum. Now, there's nothing really too fancy happening here with the kick drum. It's just a filter, a shaper, and an operator basically that is being pitched up and pitched down very quickly. So I'm controlling the pitch here with these 2 operators. So these 2 operators here aren't connected to anything. So you might be wondering, when you look at the synth for the first time, where are your envelopes for controlling, you know, pitch or whatever you might want to control with a regular envelope? You can just set up oscillators. So I've got oscillator 6 and 3 here set up, and they've got no output. They're not going anywhere. I'm just referencing their envelope here. So if I go to envelopes, I'm just referencing oscillator 3 envelope here, and I'm using that to modulate the frequencies of the different oscillators. So yeah, basically I'm just using these envelopes to change the frequencies here. I've got a couple of them set up, so you can see if I change those, the kick is going to change a bit. Anyway, I'll leave it where I had it. So the second sound I've got here is a snare. So I just synthesized a basic snare. I didn't really have a lot of time to make lots of sounds, so it's just a basic snare. I'm using the noise shape here, and I'm changing the pitch of it, and I've got it going through some effects like distortion. So you can see if I change the envelope here, I get a pretty different result with the snare. Now, one of the things that I wanted to show you here on the snare is you can use these resonators here. So if I've got it turned off here, but let's turn it on. And you can use this to kind of impart sort of a acoustic drum body kind of element to it. So there's one here that's a cajon. And you can change the pitch of that. And change the decay. And let's bring down the mix as well. So you can see so it's a pretty cool way of adding some resonance to your drum sounds if you're trying to make drum sounds in here. So the next sound I've got here is just a hat. So all this is this noise oscillator here, and I am feeding a tone into it. I'm using the resonator on this sound, so if I turn it off, it sounds really noisy. And then if I turn on the resonator, it just sounds a bit more like a drum and less like some filtered noise. Yeah, I just wanted to show this as well. Just this unison chord sound. So you've only got a couple of unison voices here. Well, you've got 4 to be exact. And sometimes you might want a bit more than that. So what I've got here is I've just got 3 saws that are outputting separately. And they're all detuned from each other. So you can see this one's +3, this one -3, and this one is just regularly tuned. And if I remove those, let me just turn them off here. You can hear it just widens the sound up a bit. And then I've also got this noise going through here. So let me turn this off so you can hear it. And I'm just high passing that. So in this sense, I'm just using it as a subtractive synth. And you could also feed, say, these 3 oscillators here through their own filter, like a low pass filter or something like that. And basically you're just kind of setting up your own subtractive synth where you can route things whatever way you want to route them. So yeah, I don't really have time to go into every single parameter in here in detail. If anybody would like to see that, just let me know. But yeah, that's it. It's a pretty cool synth. So I wanted to just share a couple of the criticisms that I have of it. So yeah, just a couple of criticisms, I suppose, of the synth where it could be improved. I don't think the noise from the oscillator sounds that good. It sounds really grainy at certain points of the wavetable. That's a small thing, but that could be improved. I think the filters module in general is a bit lacking in terms of if I put an oscillator through here, maybe an oscillator that isn't a sine wave. Let's X that out. And let me just put the saw through here. So you've got this filter. And it sounds okay, but it would be nice to have more algorithms in here. Say like a 12 and a 24 dB, maybe some different filters that aren't just these ones. That would be cool. Other than that, possibly it would be nice if they added more wavetables in here. There doesn't have to be a huge amount, but maybe a couple more than this. Yeah, as far as other criticisms as well, I mean, I think the mod matrix is fine. It gives you access to everything. I think we're kind of past scrolling through lists on mod matrices now, and you know, finding wave mod 5 and then, you know, I want to put it to LFO 2. It's pretty quick, but I don't see why, like a lot of other synths, I can't just drag this off and drag it where I need it to go. I understand maybe that's like a limitation within Reason Rack or something like that, but that would be nice to see in terms of making it more user friendly. Other than that, it's pretty solid though. I like the way it's actually very easy to set up really complex modulations in this, and lots of complex. So like, let's just set up a bunch of different stuff here. So I'm not even really looking at what I'm doing. So it's really easy to set up, like, you know, a feedback loop here that goes, you know, over here into another oscillator, and maybe this is disconnected from everything and you're just feeding that in here, and then, you know, you take the result of this and you feed it in there, and then you send that back up here, and then you send that over here. So you can create, you know, really complex modulations in quite a user-friendly way. It's also a really good just basic subtractive synth as well. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's basically it. I was just checking this out myself, and when I'm checking out a synth, I like to make a whole song with it and try and make all the sounds. And I just thought that once I learned something, I would share how it works. It's pretty cool. I think it's worth it if you use Reason Rack. Combined with all of the stuff that comes in the Reason Rack, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of potential there. Yeah, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something about this if you already have it or whatever. And thanks for watching.